Are you ready to go behind the scenes and learn what it really takes to create consistent sales each and every month with your handmade small business? Join me, Monica Little, self-taught multiple six-figure small business owner and your product business coach, as I give you the insight and inspiration on how to better run your business and increase your sales in ways that you may not have even been aware of, so that your business can truly become what you knew it could be back when you first started. Learn how to let go of perfection, overcome the fear of failure that is holding you back, and finally start taking action so that you walk away feeling like you've cracked the code on how to run a successful small business. You're listening to the Product Biz Podcast. Hello and welcome to the Product Biz Podcast. My name is Monica Little and I'm your host. And today I am so excited to introduce to you to my friend, one of my personal coaches, Diana Sophia. She is a subconscious reprogramming coach and is a wealth of knowledge on how to really understand what's underneath the surface, what's driving how you show up, what's potentially stopping you from showing up even more, and how to reframe, overcome, show up to your biggest and best potential by figuring out what's underneath the surface. A little bit about Diana. She is a corporate dropout that turned into a health coach that now is a subconscious reprogramming coach. When she was working with her clients on their nutrition and lifestyle habits, she realized that it wasn't necessarily the external strategies that led to lasting results, but instead it was creating shifts with the subconscious at the identity level and at the belief level. These transformations that were possible for her clients through the use of subconscious reprogramming allowed her to change direction, and she decided to dedicate the last few years to specialize in subconscious reprogramming and testing various modalities and techniques that you are going to hear about today. Now she helps entrepreneurs, corporate professionals, small business owners release subconscious blocks that are stopping them from being who they want to be, to achieve their life, business, or career goals. She achieves this through the use of hypnosis, EFT tapping, and neuro-linguistic programming, which we are going to dive in today. I am so excited to introduce you to Diana Sophia on this week's episode of the Product Biz Podcast. Welcome, Diana, to the Product Biz Podcast. I'm so excited to have you here today to talk about the subconscious mind, tapping, reprogramming, hypnosis, all of these amazing topics with you here today.
I am so excited to be here and so excited to talk about all these things that are literally my favorite topics. So happy. And thank you so much for the opportunity to be here.
Oh my gosh, of course. I'm so excited too, because I think for a lot of people, this is going to be their first time hearing some of these words. And I know a little bit about them. I've learned from you, but this is going to be super educational for me too. So it's kind of like me double dipping, like I'm learning and we're sharing knowledge, which is awesome.
I love that.
Yeah, it's going to be so much fun. We have all these amazing topics, but I would love to just start for you to introduce yourself. Tell us a little bit about you, how you got into these topics, and then we can dive into what they truly are and how they can help people.
Yeah. Okay. So, wow, I'm going to do a super summary of this. But basically, like many years ago, like in my 20s, I actually went through like a really hard time with anxiety, depression, and all this stuff. And I learned from recovering from that actually, like we have an incredible capability to shift and transform as human beings. Like I was just like a completely different person back then. And I feel like 10 months into my therapy and like my spiritual journey, it was all at the same time happening, I realized that I was such a different person. I was like, this is crazy. Like just 10 months can do this. Imagine just like really diving into this, right? So that got my curiosity going. I got into personal development, all that stuff like since then, since like 24 or whatever. And then one thing led to the other. I really like that whole experience really got me into wanting to help other people, because I was like, these two people there, it was like my therapist and what I call a spiritual guide, kind of like awakened me to this new world of growth and self-development. And I was like, okay, I want to be doing this for people in some sort of capacity, but I mean, I studied like business management, and accounting. And I was like, I feel like these two worlds were too separate. So I went on this whole journey to try to kind of understand how I wanted to do that. work in the nonprofit world. I used to be in corporate. I quit that. I went into the nonprofit world. Then that led me into like realizing that I wanted to work more directly with people. And at some point, I even thought of studying psychology. And then I was like, no, I'm not doing that. I mean, it was just like it didn't fully resonate with me at that moment. And then one thing led to the other. And I started actually as a health coach. And then in working with people, like especially with habits, like lifestyle habits, nutrition habits, as you can imagine, and you probably, or like people probably are like recognizing, it's like so hard to make changes in that level if your mindset is not right. But I obviously didn't know that when I was started on that, I had no idea. So like as I started working with clients in that capacity, I started noticing, wait a second, but I feel like there needs to happen something else for people to be able to sustain this in the long term. And then I got into neurolinguistic programming, and I realized that there was this whole world about from the subconscious mind and our internal programs that are literally just running the show. And I was like, oh, that's why we cannot change these things in the long term. Like it's like impossible if you're just trying to do the actions, because there is a whole identity from where those actions are coming from, right? And we just are so blind to that. So I was like, this is so fascinating. Like, oh my goodness, like, why is it that not more people know about this?
Wow.
So that got me started. And then I was like, I go into the craziest rabbit holes all the time. So that was like, okay, I love this. I'm just gonna dive into it. And that's how I got into subconscious reprogramming. Like my first I don't know, guess tool or like first experience into that was neurolinguistic programming
Mhm.
and hypnosis. But then the work that I was doing with clients led me into EFT tapping and really understanding what is it that makes. I feel like I'm just fascinated. That whole thing just got me fascinated into what actually takes for a person to transform, right? Like
Wow.
how do we go from point A to point B and fully make a shift in any area of our life, or if like we're getting sidetracked in certain behaviors, patterns, or things, like how do we make that change and make it in a very flowy way instead of like forcing? Because that's how I seen that happen when I was a health coach. Like it's a typical thing, like New Year's resolutions, and you're like, I'm gonna work out, and like eat healthy and all these
Mhm.
things, right? Like everybody has this experience, and then 3 weeks in, you're like, F that. I'm
And
gonna
then
do
it's understanding why, right? Like what actually is underneath it that people lead to saying that.
Yeah, exactly. And then it's like, okay, so we are going at it, we're going at so many of these transformations and changes that we want to make at a force, like as a way, like forcing things, right? Forcing ourselves into doing things, which I mean, to be honest, it's also important and valuable, like discipline is valuable. Like a lot of this taking action is very important and valuable. But then we also have to take care of what's actually happening in the background, right? Like what the subconscious mind is thinking, how it's behaving, what are the programs that are running there that may be holding us back from actually doing those things that we want to do, but in a way more flowy way without forcing, right? Because we are just the type of person that will do those things type thing. So like, it just becomes such a different game.
Yeah, and I think that's such a beautiful story to hear you say how you started to where you are now. And I can totally relate to that so much because what you mentioned is you started really from like personal development and you just wanted to uncover it with yourself. You went through a few months of therapy and working with a therapist, but also then understanding like, wow, there's this whole other world of other components that really affect how we show up and who we are.
Yeah.
And then you turn that into being a coach. And when you start to work with people, you notice, okay, it's not just like the act of doing the work. There's this whole other realm of your mindset, your subconscious, what's holding you back, your limiting beliefs. And
All
that's
the things.
and it's so crazy. I can totally relate to that entire journey, although not entirely the same, but that personal development junkie is what I like to call myself. And I can tell that you are
Yeah.
one too. turning into a coach and then helping people and noticing a lot of the clients that I work with, what they really struggle with is just what's underneath the surface of why aren't they showing up? What's holding them back? What are they scared of? So I love how you focus a lot on the subconscious, which leads me to one of the first questions I want to ask you, because some people may not really know what is subconscious, the subconscious mind, especially if they're first diving into this sort of
Yeah.
topic. So how would you explain to someone who's maybe not super well versed in this, what the subconscious mind actually is?
Okay, I love that question. And yeah, basically, if like how I explain this in super simple words with, with like first time clients that have never experienced this, is that if you were to imagine the mind like as a whole, as an iceberg, the 10% that is above the surface is a conscious mind.
Yeah.
And that is actually our rational thinking, our planning abilities, all these like very straightforward, matter of fact abilities that we have, right? When you find yourself rationalizing in your head, like, oh, like just finding reasons for this or whatever, that's your rational mind at play. And then what is below the surface is that 90% of our minds, that is actually the subconscious mind. And the subconscious mind is in charge of all our bodily functions, so everything that happens automatically in your body is done by the subconscious mind, and also is where all our programming is stored. So we're literally like a human computer, and the subconscious mind is our where all these, I don't know, software, it's like, is lives. So all your beliefs, just like you were saying, all your beliefs, all your values, all the experiences that you have ever had since you were in your mom's womb are stored there. Like you could feel the emotions of your mom. You could like everything that happened in your forming years from 0 to 7, everything is stored there. And something that is like crazy for people to actually know is that our subconscious mind is all receptive, is all the
Mhm.
time taking in information from the world, like at a massive amount of bits per second, like millions. I cannot remember the exact number, but it's like millions bits per second, so they did this study where they put this couple, in one table, and just so you get an idea of like what the subconscious mind is doing. So they were in a restaurant or whatever, a setup, where there was a couple in one table, and they were like the subject of the study, and there was all these different tables all around them with different people, and they were going about their night, whatever, talking, blah blah blah, and then they went and did hypnosis to this couple, to see how much they could like remember. So with no hypnosis, like at a conscious level, obviously they're like, are you crazy? I cannot remember what any of those tables were saying. Like I don't, maybe a word, maybe a topic, but that's about it. And then they did hypnosis on them, and they could remember what every,
Oh,
table around them was saying, so that is how powerful the subconscious mind
wow.
is, always taking in information, even if we don't really notice it, right? And
Mhm.
then it's passing all that information through certain filters, and those filters are our beliefs, I don't know, like the location, of where we're at, all these different filters like values, experiences, things that have happened before, that kind of taint out the way we look at life, right? If we have had like hard times, we can make that into, yeah, like resilience or whatever it is, or we can make that mean that everything's going wrong for us, right? There's like
Mhm.
every person can make mean their life experiences a million different things. And that is almost like give us these lenses, right? Like these filters, these like glasses that is how we look at the world after that. So anyways, the subconscious mind is doing all this stuff, and then the conscious mind can literally process like, I think it's 126 bits per second. So like here is like the subconscious mind taking like millions, and then after all those filters, we only get that 126 bits per second. And what that means is that basically those filters, is really, I mean, the world is, all this wonderful unlimited place, and then those filters are creating our experience. So imagine, if you have like a color glass, that is like, yeah, everything goes wrong for me, and whatever it is, from that, from all the information that you're taking on from the world, you're just gonna like have that very limited view of everything that is available for you, and then you're gonna take that as your truth. And then
Mhm.
you don't, like you just don't even know that there's other possibilities because you cannot see them, and it's just because of all the filters and everything, all the programming that is in those filters in the subconscious mind. So yeah, it's like fascinating.
Yeah, it really is. And it's so crazy to know how you said like 10% of our mind is the rational, the planning, the what we think what we're doing, right? It's that more present what we're doing, what we're accomplishing, rationalizing, putting our thoughts
Yeah.
into it. And then 90% of it, like you said, is what happened from when we were younger that affected our beliefs, our values, that creates these filters. And the crazy part is we don't even know that we have these filters, that we walk
Yeah.
around like all day not knowing that, oh my gosh, like what happened to me when I was younger, and the beliefs and the values and the things that I saw as I was growing up have really altered how I show up, what I believe is true, how I see the world. And that's
Yeah.
where it gets interesting because it's like we can go in with a lot of the tools that we're going to talk about today to reprogram that subconscious, right? So it's not
Exactly.
like we have to be in this state that we are. We can actually go underneath the surface and start to shake some things up, right?
Yeah, it's so fun. And seriously, so many people think like, oh, I'm just like this, and just, and that's it. Just like you're saying, it's like so many people don't know that actually there's this whole world happening inside of them, and that's why they're seeing life and their experiences and other people and how they relate to people in a certain way, and then it's just insane because we have so much potential and capability to change, like seriously so much. But some years ago, they were still thinking, like scientists were still thinking that the mind was fixed, and like the brain was fixed and you could not change it. And then now we know, because of neuroplasticity, which is basically how, like your environment and what you do and what you think can actually change the brain, like the
Mm.
connections in the brain. Now, because of all that progress in neuroscience, we know that our brain is so malleable, and it's only a matter of you wanting to, I don't know, to do the changes, make the changes. Because I'm gonna tell you, yes, there's some work involved.
Yep.
It's not like magic. Although sometimes, people feel like, oh, you do like some, I don't know, subconscious reprogramming something, and you feel like it's like magic, but some things take more time.
Yep.
And there's a lot of like, I don't know. Anyways, there's a lot of different timelines, for like different changes and things. But seriously, we have such an incredible ability as human beings to be and yeah, become totally different. And that's like fascinating to me, because all the things that you think are holding you back right now don't have to hold you back.
Yeah.
And that is so amazing to me. Like I just love that concept, of like anything that could be standing in your way doesn't need to be that way, and you can change that.
Yeah, absolutely. And I love what you said about things that are holding you back and how that can change. And I think a term that's thrown around a lot that we've said a couple times is limiting beliefs. So what
Mm-hmm.
limiting beliefs are, and I would love to hear your definition too, it's basically all of those beliefs, values, and filters from when we were younger that
Mm-hmm.
we now start to think of ourselves in a certain way, or that we're not capable or we're not good enough. Do you
Yeah.
have any other examples of limiting beliefs that you've seen people have, or how would you describe limiting beliefs in your definition?
Yeah, I think a lot of people, yeah, I think that in terms of beliefs, I feel like there's two categories, empowering beliefs that we can have that are going to move us forward, that are going to make, living and achieving things and going for our dreams is easier, or relating to people easier and relating to the work easier. Those are empowering beliefs. And then we have limiting beliefs. And limiting beliefs is just anything that I see it as anything that is standing in your way to what you want to create. So sometimes we have certain limiting beliefs, that, but they are not as important. If like if you ask me, it's like, do you have to change all your limiting beliefs? I don't know, because there's some things that are just like, yeah, I mean, it could be somewhat limiting, but is it really impacting your life like crazy? Like that's your choice to decide if that's the case or not, right? If it's worth exploring and shifting that. But then there's limiting beliefs for me is anything that any type of belief or way that you are seeing the world, yourself, people, experiences that is actually just limiting you in some sort of way. It's limiting your potential as a human being. It's limiting your experience, your ability to enjoy life, your ability to connect with people and love, and love fully and love yourself fully. Just anything that is limiting you from that richness of life and from achieving the things that you want and from just being who you want to be and really fully self-express as a human being.
Yeah, I
So
love that
yeah, that's
definition.
I
It's
think that's how I
crazy.
would see it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and it's one of the biggest things that I've really had to work on too, because this goes back to the subconscious discussion of we have these limiting beliefs of I'm not good enough, I'm not capable, I'm not smart enough, I don't have what it takes, I don't have the skills, I can't
Oh
learn
my
the
God.
skills,
Yes,
right?
all the things. Uh-huh.
Yeah, and we have these ingrained in our subconscious, and that prevents us from really showing up to our fullest capability because if we believe I can't learn this skill for whatever reason, then we're not going to try our hardest. We're not actually going to see the results and we're not going to
Exactly.
reach our potential exactly like you said. So it's crazy how we can have these beliefs about ourselves, but how you position it that this is just your subconscious and it's just something that you picked up. And like you said,
Yeah.
it's a lens, and we can switch that lens and change the view. And a lot of that
Yeah.
can be done with
Yeah.
subconscious reprogramming, right?
Yeah. And just so I can explain also, I think this is a good point to explain before we go into how we can actually shift that. Is like understanding where this came from, right? So just like you're saying, a lot of these limiting beliefs just came from our past experience, right? And from 0 to 7 years old, what is happening is that basically, because you have to learn so much at that time, literally massive amounts. You need to learn how to walk, how to speak, how to relate to the world, what your parents are like, all these things, reading, writing, I don't know, all the things. What happened is that life provided us at that moment with basically a super brain, that is most of the times just in the subconscious. So basically from 0 to 7, what happens is that you don't have that much of a conscious brain. You're actually almost pure subconscious. So then you can imagine you're just taking everything in. That's why this expression of kids, they are just like sponges, right? It's true because you're just taking everything
Yeah.
in. So then what happens is that, just like I was saying, it's like every person is a whole world. And we all live different things. And people probably have this experience, like my sister and me live in the same house with the same parents. And we have made meaning and limiting beliefs totally differently than,
So
from each other, even though we experience the same things. Because every person is just experiencing, whatever they're experiencing a different way. So then what happens? Maybe, something happens along the lines where I don't know, somebody said something to you, like a teacher or your parents or somebody, and you took it in a way that was limiting. Oh, this means that I cannot trust anybody, or something happens that is very unexpected, kind of traumatic. And then it's like, oh my God, it's like life is dangerous, or I don't know, like some typical stuff related to school, for example. It's like you're not doing well in some sort of subject, and then you're like, oh my God, I'm just not good enough, like everybody's like getting ahead of me. And then what happens is that these topics, these themes start running in the background. So we have the experience, we make that belief, we at that imprint moment, we just literally get that belief. And then what happens is that becomes one of our lenses. So we
mhm.
just store it as a lens, and then we're gonna start filtering the world of possibilities, and just getting in and attracting into our lives all the experiences that are gonna support that belief. So then you get to a point where, I don't know, like 15 years old, whatever it is, and this thing that has been running, in the background, this limiting belief that has been running in the background is so cemented because you not only had the first experience, but then you had all these different other experiences that just confirm your belief, right? So we're always confirming what we believe, and that's why by the time we are adults, a lot of people were like, we're just like, yeah, no, but I'm just like this because I have all this evidence that I'm just like this, and it's like, yeah, you have evidence because you had the moment of like that you made that belief, and then you have all the different experiences that just support and continue to support and continue to support that belief. So that's why it feels so real. But then, just like we were saying, you can use subconscious reprogramming tools, which basically are like, I don't know, hypnosis, EFT tapping, neurolinguistic programming. Those are the ones that I use, but there's so many more. There's literally a world of subconscious reprogramming tools that you can use to just go into your subconscious mind and actually see the experience that you had in a totally different way. So it's all about perspective, right? So like at that moment with our child brain, or even, I mean, if something really traumatic happened when you were a teenage or like at 20, with your brain at that moment, you make meaning of that moment and you get the limiting belief or the limiting experience or like the core issue, right? And then what we do is like go back then, and then with your experience and your perspective of now, and from your higher self perspective, which is something that you can access through the subconscious mind, then you start seeing this experience in a complete different way. And that totally reprograms the belief, so then you're like, oh my God, this makes no sense. So sometimes we just get stuck in those moments in time. So we have the beliefs of our 20-year-old self, of our 15-year-old self, of our 5-year-old self, and then what we do with subconscious reprogramming is basically going into those experiences and reframing them, seeing them from a different perspective, so that the whole chain of events and like all your experiences you can see all your experiences in a completely new light.
Yeah, and I want to give one example too. As you were talking of
Yeah.
this, I'm like, what is a good example of something that people would be able to be like, that's a tangible way for me to understand what the subconscious limiting belief is. And one
Mm-hmm.
that came up for me a few months ago, or maybe earlier this year, that I think a lot of people listening will relate to is this limiting belief of being an introvert. So a lot of people who are listening to the
Yeah.
podcast who are part of my coaching program are introverts, because I'm an introvert. So I naturally
Yeah,
like
me
attract
too.
all the introverts. Yeah, it's like, oh my God, it's an introvert party. I love it. But it's so funny.
Yeah.
I had this huge limiting belief as I was growing up, especially it started to hit me in my 20s, late 20s, as I got into my 30s, of I can't be successful because I'm an introvert, because I'm not,
Mm-hmm.
friendly enough. I can't easily make connections. It's a little bit more challenging for me to build a network. When I would go sell my plant-based beauty products at markets, it would be really hard for me to connect with people, like customers. And it was
Mm-hmm.
just really challenging and draining for me. So I think, to put it in perspective on what you're saying, something probably when I was younger, when I was quiet, when I was introverted, may have potentially created this belief that because I'm quiet, because I keep to myself, I'm not going to be as successful as maybe someone else that I saw that was like, talking to the teacher and like being the teacher's pet and like building
Yeah.
a relationship.
Yeah.
So in my head, I started to think, okay, because I'm quiet, I'm not going to be as successful. And then these lenses filter everything that I see. So when I would go to
Mm-hmm.
a market and I wouldn't have as many sales, I would be like, oh, it's because I'm an introvert. I'm not good at speaking. I'm not good at talking. I'm not good at connecting. Or if I was doing something else and it didn't work out good, I'd be like, oh my gosh, it's because I'm an introvert. Like this is holding me back. So then
Oh
I
my
have
God,
this like
yes.
ingrained in me that like I won't be successful because I'm an introvert, which is
Yeah.
crazy how that can start from childhood and then just
Yeah.
grow and grow and grow, like you said, cemented to the point that I'm like, a few months ago, this actually came up at the Next Level retreat that I know you were there in March. That's one of
Mm-hmm.
the biggest takeaways. We did EFT tapping with you there, and it was a huge mindset, subconscious retreat where I left saying like, wow, you know what? I've been holding on to that for so long, and I actually can be successful even though I'm an introvert. And it was me realizing that, programming that was running for so long because I just didn't even know that it was there. So I just wanted to share that example for anyone who's listening, because it's stuff like that that you don't even realize. And then once you do, you're like, oh my gosh, that's been running in the background for 30 years, which
I
is
mean,
crazy.
it is crazy, seriously. And it's so funny that you say that because I had a very similar that also was thinking. It's like, so I'm shy, I am shy. And then a lot of people would like, see me interacting with people. It's like, I don't think you're shy, but it was just the thing that was running in my head, and then because I saw myself like that, then I started seeing other people like, oh yeah, but they just like you're saying, they can achieve all those things and they can be like that and do all those things because they're outgoing and they're brave and they're courageous. I am not like that. And I was like, I want to be like that, but I don't think I have what it takes. And it was just like the examples again and again and again
Yeah.
everywhere in my life since I was a little kid, right? So I just didn't feel like I could get out of it. But then at the same time, I had this, I don't know, massive desire of impact and just really expressing myself, especially self expression was really important for me. So I had these things like, I need to figure this out because it's like really holding me back. And in that process of really investigating these beliefs about like I have to be like those outgoing people, like those confident people, like those XYZ people, those loud people to
Mhm.
accomplish XYZ, to accomplish what I want. Where in my investigation and everything, I realized that actually it's so funny, but that's why I end up saying it's like confidence and on believing in yourself is a matter of focus, right? So like when you're focusing on these parts of your life where you can only see the supporting evidence, of like these beliefs that you have, then that's all you have. That's all you can see. And then I did a hypnosis session and it blew my mind. Seriously. Like after that, it's almost like there was like a light in all these other things that I have done in my life that actually were supporting evidence that I had everything that it takes to do
Mm.
whatever I want. But because of my programming, I was totally, literally just not even seeing that. So
Yeah.
after that experience of like reprogramming that massive belief that was holding me back, I started this list. It's like 100 things why I can, I am amazing and I can do anything that I want. And I started like listing all these things, and all these experiences that I didn't even remember, started coming to the surface. And I had all my supporting evidence to this new belief, but it's just insane, seriously. And this was
Yeah.
literally from when I was super, super little, just like you're saying. Like I went into him in hypnosis. I went to like when I was a very, very little kid, and like not feeling love or supported or this and that. And like I was like my voice, was not heard or it was not important. And then that just formed this belief and just run with it, right?
Mhm.
But it's just insane because you reprogram that and then suddenly it's almost like your inner resources are just available for you, because they're all the time there, but we just don't see them,
Yeah.
so I am a big believer that everything that we need to accomplish our dreams, to go for the things that we want, we are already within us. And the only reason we cannot access them, see them, and really use them and integrate it into our lives and embody those is because we are just clouded by all these limiting beliefs and like, I don't know, trauma or feeling not safe in your body or not safe to speak up or all these different things, right? That programs are running in our lives. But
Mhm.
I feel like, I don't know, again and again, if I find that in myself, in my clients, they already have everything that they need, and it's just a matter of getting all that, I don't know, mad stuff and like all peeling all the onions and just going back to your true self.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think part of peeling back those onions can be the layers of the onion can be really challenging though, right? It's
Yeah.
acknowledging what's holding you back and then getting to the root cause. So I know you mentioned one thing specifically that really helped you in that example, which was hypnosis. So talk
Mhm.
us through, what is hypnosis? What is hypnosis not? Because I know that word is probably taking people in multiple different directions. So talk us through
Yeah, I
that.
know. Yeah, that is so funny. Yeah, no, oh my gosh, yeah, there's so much talk about hypnosis. It's so funny because the moment I say like, oh yeah, I do hypnosis, like everybody starts like doing that little like
The pendulum,
the
like you're getting
pendulum.
sleepy.
Are you gonna sleep me right now? It's so funny. It's the funniest thing. It's like such a good conversation starter for sure.
Yeah.
So funny. But yeah, I mean, a lot of people actually don't know that we're in hypnosis is basically a very relaxed state of being, like a very, very deep relaxation. And it's actually a natural state. We're in and out of hypnosis throughout our day all the time. So like if you easily recognizable between when you're fully awake and when you're fully asleep, that part of in between sleep and awake, that is a natural state of hypnosis. It's just like a very natural state of hypnosis where you, for example, when you wake up, you still can kind of like you start to hear the outside world and you're not sleeping, but not fully awake. So that is very much hypnosis, like a hypnotic state. In like, I mean, science words, it would our brain goes through a lot of different brain waves, and it's basically imagine like it's kind of like the representation of the level of activity in our brain, like when we're awake, there's a lot of activity that those waves are faster, right? And then when we're asleep and super deep asleep, it's like those brain waves are super slow and kind of like, and then we have the theta brainwave, which is the hypnotic brainwave that is brainwave where the brain is really open to suggestion and is really calm and it feels really safe and you feel really safe. So then what happens is that the critical part of the mind, the one that tells you you cannot do that and whatever it is kind of like it goes into the background. So then you can access a subconscious mind and do all the reprogramming that you want to do. And it's I mean, a lot of people feel hypnosis like heavier in their body, lighter. Sometimes they feel tingly sensations, and then sometimes they feel nothing at all, And literally, if I were to describe it, it's pretty much so like when you're having a hypnosis session, because you can do hypnosis in many different ways, right? You can hear a hypnosis audio, you can do self hypnosis, but when you're in a hypnosis session, it's literally like talking to this person in a very relaxed way with your eyes closed. It's just like that, you're aware of everything. And then what hypnosis is not is not mind control. A lot of people think like, oh, just sleep me and just make me do that stuff, and it's not like that. Actually, I always ask people how much from 0 to 10 do you want this result? Because if they don't want it at least a minimum of 7, like they really want it, there's no much hypnosis I can do for them to actually do it. And then at this point, people hearing this may be thinking, but wait a second, what about stage hypnosis and like all these people just doing crazy stuff, on stage? It's like those shows are actually meant to attract people that actually want to do those things, that have that, I mean, they're actually volunteers. And then I don't know if you have noticed, but in all those shows, even though they start with 20 people, usually they end up with like a couple, because they start noticing that some people doesn't want to do what the hypnotist, is saying, so they have to get them off the stage so they can continue with the whole show, right? So no hypnotist can make you do something that you don't want to do. I think that's the most important thing. And then you cannot get stuck in hypnosis, and you have complete control in hypnosis. If anybody is familiar with meditation, you close your eyes and you're kind of like really in a really relaxed state. It's just like that. If in the middle of a hypnosis session, something happens and I need to, not wake up, but like open my eyes and do like open the door or whatever it is, I can do that. There's no problem. And actually in hypnosis, technically you can still hear everything. You are aware of everything. You have total control of your body and your senses and everything. The only thing is that you're very, very relaxed. And we go into that state because we are trying to bypass the critical factor of the mind, which is that chatter that is telling you, no, you cannot do that. The critical thinking part that is usually getting in the way of you actually being able to access the subconscious mind and make changes directly there. So yeah, that's how it is. And then what also happens is that, just like I was saying in the beginning, because the subconscious mind is always taking in information, then what happens is that's why, when we ask the subconscious mind, and here's another thing, the subconscious mind is a store of all the programming, and that is also obviously the good programming and the quote unquote disempowering programming, right? But it also is like an unlimited wealth of wisdom, and you like your higher self is there. You have incredible innate problem solving abilities, creativity, all of this wonderful, amazing stuff is available for you in the subconscious mind, and sometimes we cannot access it. So what happens in a hypnosis session sometimes, not always, but sometimes like the hypnotist or like the hypnotherapist can do a regression to and asking the subconscious mind, hey, this person is facing this problem. We would love to know where this comes from, and then show me 2, 3 events in the past, that have made that created this, I don't know, quote unquote problem, right? And then from there, you can go into those experiences and relive them, but not relive them in a like suffering type way, like, oh, like crying and all the stuff. Is like relieve them from almost like a detachment place where you feel really safe, really calm, and you can see those experiences in a completely new, different light. And that's where the healing happens. You kind of totally change the perspective of how you're seeing those experiences, and then that clears, the path and the belief, and then you can just decide to be however you want to be after that.
Yeah. And one thing that you said that I want to dive into a little bit is
Mhm.
with hypnosis. So, this relaxed state through some sort of audio, some sort of sound into a meditative state that then you really can get into the subconscious mind, get to the root cause and detach
Mhm.
from it. So then you feel free. You feel like you've overcome what has been potentially holding you back. One thing
Mhm.
I want to dive into is what you said, that you have to, on a scale of 1 to 10, want this to change at least a
Mhm.
7, right? And I think the
Yeah.
super interesting thing here is a lot of these limiting beliefs that we have keep us safe and small and in our comfort zone.
Oh,
So if
yeah.
I go back to that introvert example, it's like I could have crutched on that my entire life and never really showed up to my full potential. Whenever something was there that was scary or uncomfortable, I could have said, no, 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 I'm an introvert. I won't put
Yeah.
myself out there for that. So that's the other interesting thing about limiting beliefs is when it gets into the conscious brain, the 10%, we start to rationalize and say, no, wait, like don't apply to be that speaker. You're an introvert. You're not going to get it. And if you do, you're probably not going to do a good job on stage because you're shy, you're quiet and things
Yeah.
like that. So I love how you said that we have to want the change to be at least a 7 out of 10 and not crutch on it and not rely on it because our limiting
Yeah.
beliefs can really keep us small and safe. That's essentially what they're there for in some sort of capacity, right?
Yeah, 100%. Well, that's our thing. Like the subconscious mind is always going to want survival. It's like in charge of making you feel safe, feel like, I mean, be alive, basically, right? And sometimes it will have weird ways to make you to like keep you alive in its like its way of being, right? Like, I mean, the subconscious mind may think that, yeah, keeping you safe off of stage and not like trying these new things and not taking any risks is a way to keep you safe. But that obviously, if you are wanting to spread your message and like have an impact in the world and all these things, that totally goes against what you actually want, right? But it's a subconscious mind um, work to and like job to keep you safe, so yeah, it's going to like give you all the reasons why. So I also always say, like if there's something that you want to do like at a rational level, like, and this has happened to everybody, I'm sure like everybody will recognize themselves as this, like you're like, oh my god, but I really want to do XYZ, right? I really, like, for me, like for example, I really want to speak in big stages, and like my conscious mind is all over it. I have rationalized why. It's like, but look, like all these people in front of us, it's okay, they're just people, whatever it is, it's like fine. You can just like almost coach yourself through the whole thing. But if your subconscious mind is in like trigger fear mode and you don't really feel safe, you're gonna be really stressed, and then in that stress state, you may not do your best performance. But if you can just bring your subconscious mind on board by reprogramming whatever needs to be reprogrammed, then your whole body, it's like not only your conscious mind, but your whole body, your whole being is just on board with whatever it is that you want to do. So then you stop forcing and start flowing, and just
Mm.
all these things that you want to do are way smoother. I'm not saying that you're not gonna, you're not gonna feel nerves or all the stuff. 100% not. I have done a lot of like, I don't know, subconscious programming in myself, reprogramming in myself, and I still get nervous. I still feel stretched. I still feel like, oh my God, we're gonna do this. It's like, so like, outside of my comfort zone, and I still have the nerves. But in a 0 to 10 scale, it is at a manageable place where I can do the things. It's not impairing me, it's not paralyzing me. I can have fun with it. And also because I'm not super stressed about it or whatever it is, I have access to my resources,
Mhm.
which when we're super stressed and in kind of like alert mode, sometimes we lose contact with our inner resources, right? So yeah, I think that's I don't know, like if like that makes sense, but it's another way of explaining, like just the full on body, like yeah, like let's just do this. And going back to the really wanting it, I think when people so has been my experience. When people have something that they want to accomplish, a dream, something that is really, really just tickling their hearts, you know, like then that's what I have noticed, that where that people have, or like that some sort of purpose, mission, vision, something that they want to create that really makes them want to get rid of this stuff and work on it so they can have a more like an easier way to get there, right? And yeah, that's what I see. And then there's people that literally are like all about just wanting to live an amazing, enjoyable, expansive life. And they know that their things are just holding them back from
Mhm.
enjoying life, from being happier, from having amazing relationships with their families, their friends, their co-workers, And that alone, that sense of like, I really want to change this, I want to be able to enjoy my relationships more and like connect more with people and this, that is a motivating force for them to get in, into working with somebody like me or a coach or whatever, right? But there needs to be some sort of motivation for you to want to do
Yeah.
it. And then another thing I want to say is like one thing that holds a lot of people back from going into I don't know, like working on these things, is because we have this idea that it's going to be painful, that sometimes remembering things from the past is going to be painful. And I'll just say to that, it's like, yes, it feels scary, but I will say that there is, like in EFT and hypnosis, there is ways to, in both, and even yeah, in neurolinguistic programming as well, where you don't have to go into reliving the experience at such a heightened state that you're like suffering through the thing and you feel like after the session you're like dying, right? It's not like that. There's many ways where you can actually reprogram things without the suffering part of it, like where you feel like it's a gentle transformation, if that makes sense. It's not like
Yeah.
rough, it's not like scary, and a good practitioner also will have tools to like ease in into it and like calm those nerves if like that's something that shows up for you, which
Yeah.
has happened to some people that I have worked with, so yeah,
I
I
think
wanted
that's
to say
really
that.
good. Yeah, really good to mention that because it's not something to be scared of doing. It's not totally reliving like traumatic experiences that you may have had. It's just kind of uncovering why is your programming the way it is, understanding.
Yeah.
One thing that I want to mention too that you mentioned that I want to elaborate on is for people who don't know what their limiting beliefs are, couple really
Hmm.
easy ways to find it. Say the sentence, I want to reach my goal XYZ,
Hmm.
but dot 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 dot.
Yeah,
And
exactly.
whatever comes after the but is going to be your limiting belief, right? I want to
Yeah.
leave my full-time job, but I don't think my business can grow to its full potential because I'm not good at sales or whatever it is. Okay, there's your limiting belief
Yes.
right there. Or I
Yeah.
want this amazing life, how you mentioned this purpose just to live a great life. I want this amazing life, but I'm not worthy of it. Or, but it's not available to me. Or, but I can't make enough money to sustain my lifestyle. Those are then clues on what your limiting beliefs are. Because I think some people might hear it and be like, well, I don't have any limiting beliefs. And it's like, we
Yeah.
all do.
Yeah.
We all got stuff underneath the hood that we need to work on. So I think
Yeah.
those couple prompts, like I want this XYZ, but will really help people to then be like, oh yeah, like I do have something that I can work on underneath the surface.
Yes, I love that. And that's exactly actually one of the techniques in EFT. It's called tail enders. It's basically stating what you want, and then it's like what your brain starts, like your critical brain starts saying like, no, but you cannot do that because XYZ, right? All that stuff that comes up there, just write it down because those are limiting beliefs, you know. And the nice thing is that just like we know, because we know the process of like how changing beliefs like work, you know, you can actually start, and this is for everybody out there, do that homework, you know, do the what state what you want and see what comes up for you, why you cannot get it, what is the bad, right, what comes after the bad, and state all of that. And one way of starting shifting that is understanding what in your world, like in your experience, in your world, in the world outside, actually discredits that,
Mm.
you know, and like find like all the experiences, all the reasons why, all your own past experiences that actually discredit that belief, and write that down. It's like it is, yeah, it is a process, you know, like writing it down or whatever it is, but it seriously starts chipping away, you know, the solidity of those beliefs. So you're like, oh yeah, it's like, you know, actually now that I wrote 10 things about why that is not true and why this other thing or this other belief that I would love to believe is true, then I can start shifting things. So just like you write your limiting beliefs, you can also write the opposite, right? And sometimes the opposite may feel like super far-fetched and a super stretch, right? Okay, is there something in the middle, like an empowering belief in the middle, in between your super out there belief that you would want to have and the disempowering one that you have right now, that you can just write down and start finding evidence in the world for that, you know? So there's two different ways to, like, you can discredit the beliefs by finding all the evidence why they are not true, and then also start choosing what is that you would want to believe, that if you were to fully 100% with your whole body and mind believe, will make it easier for you to accomplish your goals, and start finding all the evidence for it. And that's a homework that I give to everybody, because we all can, you know, pen and paper and just get
Ah.
get to writing, because it works as well.
Yeah, as you were talking through that, I started to make my little list. I'm like, okay, let's bring this introvert example back. Okay, I want to be successful, but I'm an introvert. And then I was like, okay, what can I discredit the belief with? And I'm like, okay, well, since I'm an introvert, I'm a good listener, I'm a good writer, good at technology. Like these are all the skills that like all introverts usually have. These
Mm-hmm.
more like listening, writing captions, creating websites, sending out emails, like all of the stuff that's less forward facing, but still
Yeah,
communication that introverts are good at. And it's like, wow, okay, once I actually start to write these down, then it's like I actually can be successful because I'm an introvert.
exactly, not inspired, exactly, because you're an introvert, exactly, because all of the things that we think are like limiting things from us also can be, you know, actually our superpowers.
Yeah, I love it. Okay, so we talked about hypnosis and how that really helps to get into the subconscious reprogramming. I've heard you mention EFT a couple times. Talk
Yes.
me more about what EFT is, tapping, and
Yeah.
how it works.
Yeah, yeah, tapping is like one of my favorite tools, because okay, so tapping also is called EFT, which is emotional freedom technique, and it basically is a mix of exposure therapy, you know, so like exposing yourself to whatever is that you're afraid of, or that you're like, I don't know, you have a holdback, or like it's making you feel a certain way, whatever it is, like bringing that to, it's not exposing necessarily like in real life, but bringing it to your attention so that your body goes into kind of like um, that moment, experience, whatever it is. And at the same time, what we're doing is tapping, literally with the fingers, tapping certain acupuncture points that are engaging the relaxation response. So they basically are making you feel really, really relaxed. And they are sending signals into your brain that you are safe, that you are calm, that everything is good in your world, type thing. So then what happens when, for example, like just to give you an example, I had a very, it's like, I feel like, yeah, this is like the best way to understand this, but I have been working on public speaking for as long as I can remember. I mean, I don't even know how many years at this point. So I have done all these different things, right? Those masters and like improv and like acting classes and all the things. So like, great. all those strategies are amazing. But at a body level, and your subconscious shows itself a lot in your emotions, in the holdbacks, in the sensations in your body that you have when you are facing certain things, right? That are outside of your comfort zone. So at a body level, though, every time I had to introduce myself in a group, even if it was like 5 people, my body would freak out, like in my head, I was like, yeah, I'm like keeping it together out on the outside, but inside I'm like dying, right? So like, anyways. So my body would freak out and I would just get so nervous. I would forget what I wanted to say because I was so nervous, all the things. So that is your body response. So I did all the strategy things, but I still was getting nervous. Like I knew how to put together a thing, a speech, all the things, all the technical part, all the strategies. But then I was still freaking out, inside of my body. So then I started working with a tapping coach to start relieving, and kind of neutralizing the body responses, my body and mind's responses to whatever the experience it was. So then I started imagining myself on stage, and I was freaking out. And then, okay, and as I was freaking out, imagining on stage, then I started tapping. So then your body starts sending signals to your brain like, hey, we're chill. Actually, this experience is good. So then it's called emotional freedom because you literally, it's like almost like get free of these emotional burdens or body reactions or, yeah, like visceral experiences, that are holding you back from showing up like you want to show up. And I did that same tapping thing for being on stage, for introducing myself in a Zoom meeting, for raising my hand in a class, and just all the things. Literally, you can just take every little thing that you're afraid of, that is holding you back, that you feel uncomfortable of. Like, even, I mean, I have been in a class where literally, for example, like somebody said like, okay, I need help, and they were actually, wait a second, let me just go back and just say, FYI, results of like working on public speaking, actually in that event that you were, Monica, in March, I have never done that in my life before. So I did a EFT segment with 120 people on stage and walk them through a whole experience of breaking through certain beliefs with EFT tapping. I haven't never done that before. I have never done it in that way either. And the best thing of everything is that I was calm and collected. And because of that, I actually was able to have my resources, my inner resources, and use them, when I was on stage. So anyways, that was a result of that. But just another example that may relate to the people that are listening to this. So like there was this girl that in one of our EFT classes, group classes, that had a lot of issues to, every time she was scrolling through social media, she would like see somebody, and she would cringe in the sense that it's like, with feelings of competition and like they're doing the same as me, and like, why would I be doing this? It's like all these different things of like comparison and self-criticism on like seeing other people, and also feeling threatened, that other people are doing the same as them, and like, why would I do it, and like a lot of that stuff. And this person was walked through a whole experience of like, okay, perfect, let's just tap on that, right? Telling your body that you're fine seeing the picture and like doing this thing. And then a lot of the stuff that is not only visual, right? Some stuff is like the things that I'm telling myself about that thing that I'm seeing. So then you work at a belief level, or like whatever your mind is saying, the narrative in your brain about the experience. So then tapping on that and whatever it is. And then by the end of the thing, she could like just scroll for anything and have no thoughts, no visceral reaction, no nothing. So the sense of freedom that comes from that is just something that I can not explain. You have to experience it. It's incredible. I love it.
Yeah, and I think that that's such a good tool to help
It is
with,
amazing.
yeah, if you're struggling with showing up on social media, showing your face on social media, maybe saying something in a different way on your Instagram captions than you normally would, showing up bolder, that may
Yeah,
be something that people are scared to do. And this tapping technique can help you to basically calm the body down and not have that
exactly.
visceral reaction, and instead just show up in a calm way and accomplish what you set out to accomplish without hesitating.
Yeah, exactly. And it's insane. I mean, it's one of my favorite tools. It's like, and then the other things that you can see the results really fast. Like if you're working on a very specific thing, like a very specific trigger, you literally just test that, after the session, and you're like, this is crazy, you know. I have people just like messaging me like, I just don't understand how this works. This is insane. Like literally, I can see all the negative comments. That's our thing, you know. A lot of people get really, really triggered with negative comments, which I mean, you know, it's part of just doing business in online.
Mm-hmm.
It's like it's bound to happen. Or problems with customers also, you know, like, oh my god, it's like I got a customer that is like not happy, and they go into a stress mode, like my whole business is crashing down. You know, like the whole
Yeah.
thing just going to the extreme. That's something that you can actually work through, so that you don't respond, you don't have those responses, and then the emotional freedom, you know, that comes from that is just like such a relief. Seriously.
Yeah, I think that's a perfect example how you said, like, if you have an unhappy customer, because I know a lot of people who have product businesses, handmade businesses, and I used to do this too. Whenever I would have a review come in for one of my products, before I even read it, I would like freeze because I would have that visceral reaction of like, oh my God, I hope they're happy. If they're not happy, what do I do?
Yeah.
And this would be such an awesome technique if I knew about it back then. And then
Yeah,
whenever I had this awareness of, okay, my body is tightening up, I just got a review. I don't even know that it's bad, but I'm assuming I'm building like this barrier in case it's bad, but I could
yeah,
just tap on those acupuncture points to help me just calm the body down and not have that visceral, stressful reaction, because then that stressful reaction affects the rest of your day, because then you're like cortisol and adrenaline is all shaken off and you're like, oh my God, I'm
yeah.
exhausted today. But it's from this review that triggered me in this crazy
Exactly.
way.
Exactly. And that's actually that point that you're saying, the draining part, that is so important, because I feel like seriously, we are like in an energy crisis, because we are just like, we have so much drama in our heads and so much things going on in our bodies. And it's just exhausting, you know, especially as a business owner. Like you have to be so like, if I mean, to succeed, I feel like you really have to go outside of your comfort zone, like on a regular basis. And your nervous system is like, oh, you know, like on what are you doing to me type thing. And then I think about EFTs that literally you can learn it and you can apply it to yourself. And in those moments where you need it, you can just tap. And the nice thing is that if you do a full on, like kind of not tapping only on the moment, but also what created these reactions, whatever it is, you can actually just in general start having better reactions from that moment forward.
Mm.
You know, and then other things that are is really good for procrastination usually is like a resistance, any type of resistance to do something, you know, you can work through that. Any fear, yeah, like you can work through that. Any emotions, like loaded emotions, those things that are holding you from the back from the past, like for example, so any time that you have any feelings of unworthiness, which is something that I have worked with many different clients, this like thing that is like they don't know where it comes from, but they just feel unworthy, you know, of like their success, unworthy of love, unworthy of joy, unworthy of whatever it is. And that is just, if you really think about it, when you ask yourself, there is a place where you feel that in your body, you know, it's in your heart, it's in your chest, it's somewhere. And then this sensation, you know, you can just free yourself from it, see where it came from. In EFT, you can also go back in the past and just clear whatever happened in the past and reprogram it, like reframe it, have a different perspective, and then it doesn't affect you in the present anymore.
Oh my
It's an
gosh.
incredible tool. Like I
Yeah.
just love it. And then anybody can learn it. It's so easy, so simple. Like it's just my favorite tool to teach also.
I love it. So one other thing you mentioned, which I think is like the trifecta. We talked about EFT, we talked about hypnosis. I want to talk a little bit about NLP because you mentioned
Yeah.
neurologic programming. So give us just the rundown of what NLP is.
Okay, so NLP is basically, how would I say it? It's like, I mean, the language, it's almost a programming language of the mind, you know, so it's all about like subconscious reprogramming. And it's just a cell, I would describe it as a set of a lot of different tools to reprogram the subconscious mind. And there are like, a lot of them are like quick things, you know, very quick things. So one of the techniques, for example, that I use the most in from neurolinguistic programming is time technique. And time technique can help you let go of limiting beliefs, and also it can help you clear emotions. So for example, you know, sometimes, not sometimes, when we're feeling certain emotion in the present moment, because of our subconscious mind has been accumulating all the experiences where we have felt that emotion, sometimes, and this may be something that people experience, the emotion is almost like too, it is almost like you sense it too much. It's almost like it just, you go overboard, right? And you're like looking back, it's like, it wasn't even that big deal. I don't know why I felt so bad, or like so sad. It's like, it doesn't make sense, right? But what happens is that we have been accumulating these emotions for like, years of years, and we have lived all these different events where we have felt that emotion. So then we feel it right now, and we're not feeling just the moment of now. We're feeling like all the backpack of emotions. So sometimes when people have gone through really hard times in the past, the first thing I do is an emotional clearing with neurolinguistic programming with this specific technique that is in time technique. But then there's a lot of other little techniques that are just meant to let go of like inner conflicts, like parts work. Then there is reframing something in your brain. So for example, like if you see, let's just imagine, there's an action, that something like an activity, let's just say, that you really love, and when you think about that activity that you really love, let's just say working out, like exercising in a particular way, doing yoga, let's just say, and you have that story in your head in a certain way, like you look at it with like certain colors, like certain like a very specific inner representation of that. And then the things that you don't like, when you ask yourself, like you also have a totally different representation of how that is. So you can actually do an NLP technique where you actually switch those, and you just like basically just like
It's like the brain wiring or something like
yeah,
that.
it's like brain rewiring. It's like I just saw the hour and I was like, oh wait. Okay, so anyways, so I got distracted. So basically what you're doing is attributing the likes of one thing and putting it into the other thing. If that makes sense, So
Yeah.
like you just like cross,
Yeah.
And it's like so quick. And obviously sometimes there's more work to do, like in the like deeper work to do. But these are like quick things, So for very specific things, I will use those techniques.
And would you say our hypnosis and EFT, is that part of neuro-linguistic programming, or are they separate?
They are separate, but they share a lot,
I see.
like a lot of language, like language patterns, a lot of background between them. Like I feel like a lot of the NLP techniques are actually used. It's like they just share a lot of things. There's
Yeah.
a lot of things in common.
Cool. I love it. I
Yeah.
think a couple things to just round out our discussion. Some of the notes that I took from our chat today, as I learned from you, which I love to do, is
Yeah.
to really think through, what do you want? So I want this goal, but that will really help to uncover what your limiting beliefs are. Then, how you mentioned reframing it. So find alternatives just to discredit it. How are you actually grateful for whatever you wrote in that first sentence? And then you can take it a couple steps further by using hypnosis to really overcome and uncover what's stopping you. So what are some of those like really subconscious stuff that maybe we can't even capture it when we're trying to think about it in our brain? We have to go in this like hypnotic state to really uncover what's driving that. And then further using EFT to calm the body when things come up, when we're starting to get on this edge of our comfort zone after we've uncovered our limiting beliefs. We know where they stemmed from. Now,
Yeah.
as we make changes, we can really use EFT to calm the body. So I love
Yeah.
how all of that really comes together and shows, if you have these big goals and these big dreams that you want to achieve, we have to uncover what's underneath the hood and make sure that we're ready to put everything on the line to show up outside of
Yeah.
our comfort zone and really be the best version, the highest self that you mentioned earlier too.
Yeah, that's basically rounds it up. And I also want to say that there's a lot of work that you can do on your own. Just like I was saying, those like journaling prompts, like those are so useful. And they bring to awareness also things that, like you may be able to work through a lot of that stuff on your own. And then there's one thing that is still sticking out. And then you can just go to somebody and like just work through that, right? But it's just, or like also learn EFT. That's something that I want to do like next year, is start doing groups to like teach EFT so they can use it for letting go of limiting beliefs and just facing certain emotions or holdbacks or whatever it is, like on a regular basis, because it's such a great tool to have. It's like, I feel like everybody should know EFT. Seriously, it's just
Yeah.
so good. I love
Yeah.
it.
Great. That's so awesome. I love it. I'll be there. Let me know.
Yeah.
I've done a couple sessions of EFT with you, and I'm like, oh, this after every single time, you just feel different, and it's hard to put into words, but you just
Yeah.
uncover things, you feel different, you feel calmer, you feel ready to overcome whatever gets thrown your way. And it's a great feeling to have. So learning how to
Yeah.
have that in our back pocket at all times is an awesome tool. But
Yeah.
share with us, I know you have a self-hypnosis freebie. Share with us a little bit
Yeah.
about that and where people can find you to continue to learn from you.
Yes. So, I mean, I think, yeah, I'm mostly on Instagram. So it's like my handle is I am Diana Sophia. And Sophia is SOF, like with an F of Frank. I am originally from Peru. So my name is just like written differently. I am Diana Sophia. And then my website is also dianasophia.com. It's just as easy as that. And then for the freebie, you can just, it's Diana Sophia, dianasophia.com/hypnosis. And there's going to be, yeah, a hypnosis audios where basically there's like a fill in the blank type thing where I teach you like in the written part in the instructions how to set up a phrase of something that you want to believe or something that you want to achieve, kind of like the other side of like the limiting beliefs, right? What it actually is that you want to achieve or believe, and set it up in a way where you repeat it in the hypnotic state so that you start reprogramming your brain that way. So it's nice because you have the one exercise that Monica was rounding up right now, where you find those limiting beliefs and start kind of like dismantling them. So you start letting go of that resistance to believe certain things, and then you can use the hypnosis to actually start programming you and embodying this new version of yourself.
Mm. Oh my gosh, that sounds amazing. I love
So
it.
fun.
So fun. And then you also do coaching in terms of tapping and hypnosis and all this fun stuff as
Yes.
well, right?
Yeah, absolutely. So like, yeah, if anybody wants to work with me, wants to dive deeper, you can just go to my website, book a call. This is a zero pressure call. I'm really honest with the people that I can help and not help. Like I will tell you. And also I love if like I know of somebody else that could help a person better, I will send them their way. Like I'm just in the business of helping people. So like, yeah.
Yeah.
And yeah, I love working through just going deep with people. So
Yeah.
yeah, if you want to do that, I'm your girl.
Uh, well, it's been so amazing having you on the podcast, and you're such a wealth of knowledge on all these topics. It's so awesome to dive in to ways that we really can just show up to be our best self. So thank you so much for talking us through tapping, EFT, NLP.
All the things.
Oh my gosh, hypnosis, all of the amazing things. So thank you so, so
Thank
much.
you. Thank you for the opportunity, and thank you for opening the doors of your podcast for like me to talk about all these things that I'm just so passionate about. And yeah, thank you for everybody that listened to this. Like it's my absolute pleasure. This is like my favorite thing to do in the world.
I know,
So thank you.
I can tell your passion just shines, so I love it. I'll make sure to link your Instagram handle, your website, and the self-hypnosis freebie in the show notes, and if anyone has any
Perfect.
questions, they can reach out to you from your contact info in there. But
I
thank
love
you
that.
so much.
Thank you. Bye. Thank you so much. Bye.